She stood right in my doorway, screaming like she owned the place. "You can't live here," she yelled, waving a stack of papers that looked like some fake HOA forms. The crazy part? My house wasn't even in her HOA. I had bought it 2 weeks ago. Clean title, no restrictions, no community rules. Just quiet land and peace. Or at least, that's what I thought I was buying. When I told her calmly, "Ma'am, this isn't HOA property," she actually laughed. "Oh, honey, everything here is part of Willow Creek HOA. You're just confused." Then she tried stepping inside, like she was checking if I'd done something illegal. My dog started barking and she shouted, "I'll report this. You're trespassing on private HOA land." I almost laughed, but her tone, cold, certain, entitled, froze me instead. She was serious. This woman really believed she could walk into my house and accuse me of trespassing on land I owned. I asked her to leave. She crossed her arms, lifted her phone, and said, "You've got two options: move out voluntarily or deal with the HOA board. We can fine you or remove you." That's when I realized she wasn't just some nosy neighbor. She thought she ran the whole street. But before I could answer, she smirked and said, "You'll see. By tomorrow, you'll be gone." Then she turned and walked away, dialing someone as she left. That night, my security camera caught headlights pulling into my driveway at midnight. The same SUV. The same woman. She stepped out holding a box, like she was moving in. And when I went outside to confront her, she screamed, "You're the one trespassing on my property." I didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning.
She was standing there in her robe, barefoot, clutching that cardboard box like it held proof of her ownership. "You don't understand," she shouted, her voice echoing through the quiet street. "This lot used to belong to my HOA's common area. That means it's ours." I kept my voice steady. "Ma'am, I bought this place from the county auction. The deed's in my name." But she wasn't listening. She marched past me and set her box down in my living room like she was claiming territory. "I'll be staying here until this gets resolved. HOA law allows temporary occupation for disputed lots." I stared at her, trying to process the insanity. "There is no dispute. You're trespassing." She looked me dead in the eye and said, "That's funny, because from where I'm standing, you are." Something about her calmness was unsettling. I pulled out my phone and called the sheriff's office. She just smiled and said, "Oh, don't bother. My friends on the HOA board have already called their officers." A few minutes later, two men in security uniforms pulled up. White SUV, flashing yellow lights, HOA Patrol written on the side. I knew instantly they weren't real cops. No badges, no department tags, just smug grins. The taller one stepped forward and said, "Sir, we've received reports you're illegally occupying HOA property. We're going to have to ask you to leave." Karen folded her arms behind him, watching like a queen, enjoying her victory. I stayed calm. You got any proof of that?" He pulled out a printed paper with a fake seal. It said, "Notice of violation, unauthorized residency." I took one look and saw the spelling errors, the watermark cut off. Before I could say a word, Karen whispered loudly, "Don't make this harder. Just leave quietly and we won't press charges." That was my breaking point. I turned on the porch light and said evenly, "All right, but if you're here representing any kind of legal authority, your visit's on record." I pointed up to the camera mounted over my door. The little red light blinked. For the first time, I saw a flicker of panic in Karen's eyes. The taller officer shifted uneasily under the camera light, lowering his fake clipboard. Karen's smile vanished. "Turn that thing off," she barked, trying to sound in control again. I didn't move. "Oh, it's staying on. This is my house, and you three are trespassing." The shorter guy muttered, "Let's just go. This ain't worth it."
But Karen snapped at him. "Stay right there. He's bluffing. HOA rights override private claims during review periods." I almost laughed. "Review period? Karen, this property hasn't been HOA since 2008. I have the county map and it's public record." That hit her. She froze for a second, then her eyes darted toward my camera again. "You think that camera scares me?" she hissed. "I know people in city zoning. You'll regret." Before she could finish, headlights turned into the driveway again, real ones this time. A county sheriff's cruiser rolled up, blue lights flashing. Karen's confidence cracked instantly. The deputy stepped out, resting his hand on his belt. "Evening. Got a call about a trespasser?" Karen hurried forward before I could speak. "Yes, officer. It's him. He broke into this HOA property and refuses to leave." The deputy looked at her, then at me, then at the HOA patrol guys. "Ma'am, this property's not on HOA land. It's county jurisdiction. These two aren't law enforcement." She blinked. "What do you mean they aren't? They work for us." The deputy's tone hardened. "They're impersonating officers. That's a felony." Her face drained of color. The fake cops quietly backed toward their SUV. One of them whispered, "We're out," before driving off. Karen tried to recover. "Officer, this is just a misunderstanding. We were trying to protect neighborhood standards." The deputy turned to me. "Sir, do you want to press charges?" I looked at her trembling hands and said, "Not yet. I just want her gone." The deputy nodded and told her, "Leave this property immediately." She did, but not before leaning close to me and whispering, "You think you won tonight, but I'm not done." And true to her word, by sunrise, I found something that made my stomach drop. A bright orange HOA eviction notice nailed to my front door.
The paper flapped in the morning wind, nailed right through the wood like a warning. Eviction notice, unauthorized occupancy, it said in bold, fake letters. It even had an HOA seal at the bottom that looked freshly printed. Karen's name was scribbled underneath as acting president. I tore it down and laughed under my breath, but it wasn't funny anymore. She was escalating. Within an hour, a tow truck showed up, trying to pull my truck out of the driveway. I ran out yelling, "What are you doing?" The driver shrugged. "HOA orders, said it's blocking a fire lane." I showed him my deed, my address, everything. "Buddy, this isn't HOA property." He looked at the documents, swore under his breath, and drove off. Karen came out from behind a hedge, clutching her phone, recording everything like she was the victim. "You just assaulted a county worker," she screamed. "Wait until the news hears about this." I ignored her and called the sheriff again. Same deputy came out, looked exhausted, and said, "Sir, she's been calling every department she can find. We warned her last night, but if she keeps this up, she's gonna face real charges." Karen smirked from her porch across the street. "You think you can scare me with badges? I am this community," she shouted. I didn't answer. Instead, I walked back inside and opened a folder I hadn't needed yet. One marked Federal Survey Authority. My late father used to work in land mapping for the Department of the Interior. When I bought this property, he made sure the transfer went through federal registry, not local zoning, which meant no HOA ever. That evening, I printed every document, every recording, every clip of her trespassing and calling fake officers. I handed it all to the sheriff's office. By morning, a warrant had been issued for impersonation, harassment, and falsifying documents. When the deputies pulled up in front of her house, the entire street came out to watch. Karen screamed as they handcuffed her on the lawn she claimed to run. Her final words echoed down the block. "This isn't over! You can't take my neighborhood!" The deputy looked at me and said quietly, "You did everything by the book. She's done." I nodded, finally breathing. Watching her car get towed this time felt poetic. I replaced the broken door frame, took down the fake notice, and hung a small sign that read, "Private property, verified federal land." And as I sat on my porch that night, I smiled. Not out of spite, but relief. Because for the first time since I moved in, it was finally quiet. Funny thing about power, I said softly to myself, it disappears the second you face the truth.